Hello, welcome to Ian's Bricks, and today I'm going to be talking about large Lego sets. Is it worth buying them for investment? Now obviously with Lego sets you're supposed to buy them to build them, but as you know I sell quite a lot of Legos. I buy Lego in buy far too much Lego, to be fair, and I do build some of it myself, but most of the time I'm buying for investment. So what I'll do is I'll hang on to these sets for maybe a couple of years, maybe a little bit longer depending on the set, and sell them on at brick festivals and shows. So that's kind of what I do. And a lot of people sort of see me buying all of these sets, but maybe don't realise that quite often is I don't buy a lot of really big sets, and there's probably a number of reasons. So I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of big sets, and also I'm going to have a look back at last year, 2024 and 2023, having a look at the big sets that retired and seeing how they're doing now on the aftermarket since they've retired. So what do I mean by a big set? Now there are lots of sets of Lego from very small to absolutely huge. I think the largest set that ever was the world map, which had the most amount of pieces, but it actually wasn't the biggest sort of box set that you could ever get. I think nowadays you've got some of the big sets of things like the Eiffel Tower, and you've also got the big Millennium Falcon that they've got, and sets like that. So there are much bigger sets than that. The Titanic as well is another good example. There are 8 what I consider really big, or the biggest Lego sets retiring this year. And what I'm sort of basing this on, it's either sets that cost more than £300 or $350 or are more than 4,000 pieces. So some of the sets will be less than 4,000 pieces depending on the price ranges. It can be a really interesting mix sometimes. If you get a set with a lot of big pieces in, that'll be quite expensive because of the mouldings on some of those larger sets. You could get some much cheaper sets, like for example that world map, which is all just little dots, so it had loads of pieces in it, but none of the pieces were very big. So there can be a big mix of things. So I've kind of tried to stick to a similar kind of formula, generally over £300, but that's not always the case for sets from a couple of years ago. So what sets do we have? The big sets that are retiring. I'm going to talk through, there are 8 of them for 2025. I'm going to talk through each one very quickly, hopefully, and just sort of say whether I think that will do well or not. So the first set is 75331. It's the Star Wars The Razor Crest. That is £519.99. It's $599.99 in US dollars and in euros, and that set has 6,187 pieces. All of these sets that I'm talking about, first of all, are due to retire at the end of 2025. Look, great looking set, looks amazing when it's built, and I get that Star Wars fans are going to like this kind of set. However, from an investment point of view, I'm finding that a lot of Star Wars sets, and especially the big ones, they're taking quite a while to appreciate in value. And for me, spending £520 or $600 on a set, that's a lot of money to be spending on a set, and I think that's the problem with a lot of these bigger sets, is your initial outlay to buy these sets is very high. Once you've got the set, of course, then you've got a really big set to store somewhere. Where do you store it? Have you got somewhere where you can store it? So, a big box like that is going to take the size up of, say maybe 10 smaller sets, which you might be able to make more profit on. So that is a very big box for that Razor Crest set. Very nice set, don't get me wrong, really like it. And I think with all of these sets I'm going to talk about, you would be looking at trying to get a decent amount of discount, if you can, on these sets if you were to buy them. But for me, I don't think I'll be buying a Razor Crest this year. As nice as the set is, I just don't think I want to spend over £500 on one set and then hope in 2 or 3 years' time that increases in value. There's a lot more of a risk on a big set like that. Next on my list is 76178, the Marvel Daily Bugle, and that's £299.99, $349.99 in US dollars and euros, 3,772 pieces, a bit smaller than the last one. Again, very nice set, and I don't actually have any of these at the moment. I know when these first came out, there was quite a few deals and discounts, and people were getting some really good deals and discounts on them. I've not seen that many deals and discounts recently for them. And also, I'm always very cautious about Marvel sets. I just don't think they've got the oomph sometimes of some other genres and sets, as maybe in the past Star Wars has always done very well, but maybe not so much these days. But certainly I always struggle to get too excited about Marvel sets because I just don't think they increase too much in value. I know I had a much smaller set than that. It was a Marvel, the tower, the Avengers tower that they had, and it was like £100 set, and it took quite a while to increase in value, and even then I sell them off with not much profit. So I'm always very cautious about Marvel sets. As nice and as great as the Daily Bugle is, and I think the fans like it, obviously, but as an investment thing, I'm not so sure. People probably will disagree with me on that one, but there you go. What are your thoughts on that? Next on my list, 75978. It's the Harry Potter Diagon Alley, $389.99. That set is $449 in US dollars and in euros. 5,544 pieces. Brilliant set. I've got it. You might be able to see it right at the top of my cabinet there. It's a set I built ages and ages and ages ago. And I did actually pick one of these up recently. They had them on sale on Lego.com, down to £312, I think it was. This is a set that I have actually bought, but I've only bought one of these. And again, why have I only bought one? Because they are very, very big sets and they're very expensive. A large box, I've got to store it somewhere. It's going to take a couple of years to increase in value. The other thing to remember with really large sets is if you've got a set that's £389 now, if you're buying it for investment, you're obviously going to want to make profit on that. Now, what would you want to be selling that set at in the future? You know, would you hope to get £500 out of that, maybe £600? Is somebody going to pay £600 for that set? And that's what you've got to think about as well. These big sets, it's all right buying all of these big sets, but you've got to think long term, is there going to be a need for somebody to want to have those sets? Lego could turn around next year and do another Diagon Alley that's bigger and better than the last one. And then you're going to be stuck with a set that's kind of worth a lot of money, it costs you a lot of money, and you're not going to be able to sell on. And that is another risk factor in buying big sets. Is somebody going to want to pay those big prices for a set like that? For me personally, I think Diagon Alley could be one of those sets. I think it's a good set. Will I be buying any more of those? Possibly, but possibly not. I think if I did get any more, I'd probably only get one more. I can't see me getting more than ever two of those. Again, just because they're so expensive in the first place. It's a lot of money to have held in a set like that. Next on the list, 42115, the Technic Lamborghini Sian, $389.99, $449.99 in US dollars and euros, 3,696 pieces. I tend not to buy Technic sets myself. I know a lot of these cars that they've done in the past, they did a Bugatti, didn't they? Very similar size. They look great, they're amazing sets, don't get me wrong, but I think for me, I don't really do those really big vehicles. Again, a lot of money to be tied up in a set. Technic is not a genre that I normally buy that much of. So for me, it's not a set that I particularly would want to be buying any of. I know people have, and I know quite a while ago these cars were available at decent discounts as well. So I think maybe if you can get it at a decent discount, they are maybe a set that are probably worth buying, and if you like that kind of thing and you're used to buying Technic sets. But for me personally, I wouldn't normally go for something like that. Bit of a similar thing with 42146. It's the Technic Liebherr crawler crane. That is £579.99. It's $699.99 in US dollars and $679.99 in euros. Only 2,883 pieces, so a much smaller piece count. But that crane, it's a huge thing, and obviously a lot of the pieces are very, very big with that. So that is why that particular set is so expensive. Again, this isn't a set I don't think I'll be buying anytime soon. Nice set. It is good, but again, too expensive, too big. It comes in an absolutely massive box. It's a huge. The boxes for some of these sets are absolutely huge. Very, very heavy as well. Again, I don't really buy Technic sets, and yes, this may do very, very well in the future. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a Technic fan, so I don't know whether Technic fans would want to maybe buy this in the future if they missed out now. But for me, I just don't think that is a set that I could spend that amount of money on and hope for a reasonable amount of investment after in the long term. Next on the list is a set I really do like, and that's 10305. It's the Icons Lion Knights Castle. That comes in at a whopping £344.99, $399.99 in US dollars and euros, 4,515 pieces. Great looking set. I absolutely love it. I haven't bought any of these yet though, and I think the reason is just the price. It is a very, very high price to start with. I've seen a lot of these Bricklink castles and things which have been available. I've sold a few of them, and they have gone up in value a little bit, but I do worry that a set like this, as fantastic as it is an amazing looking set. It's very, very rarely been, if at all, discounted. I've never seen it discounted. And again, it's such a big set and it's a lot of outlay, and I do worry that a set like that, are people going to pay £400, £500, £600 for a set like that in 2, 3, 4 years time? I don't know. I'm not sure I can see it. I might end up getting one of these. I think I'd regret not buying any of these at all. I don't have any at the moment. Maybe I need to save some of my insider points a little bit to lower that initial hit really of the price. But yeah, great looking set, don't get me wrong, but haven't got any yet, so I'm kind of starting to run out of time. We're into September. Are these going to be on shelves much longer? Really, really don't know. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. I would like to get one, I think, before it retires. Next on the list is 71799, the Ninjago City Markets, £319.99 in UK money, $369.99 in US dollars and euros, 6,163 pieces, so big piece count on that one. Amazing looking set. I absolutely love this. This is the one with the cable car on it. Not a huge Ninjago fan, as you probably know. I actually really like this set, and I have actually been tempted. However, I think, again, the price is putting me off. And looking at previous Ninjago sets, the last one hasn't done that well since it's retired. So that does put me off as well. I think if I could get that for maybe 250, I might think about it, but I can't see a discount like that coming anytime soon for a set like that. So yeah, great looking set. Haven't got any of those at the moment. Would I buy one at the right price? Yes, but I think if it remains at full price, I don't think I'll be getting any of those anytime soon. Last on the list, so the last big set that's retiring in 2025, 43222, and that is the Disney Castle. It's £344.99 in pounds, $399.99 in US dollars, 4,837 pieces. Again, it's not a set that I've got. I actually bought two versions of the older style Disney Castle, and I kind of got my fingers burnt. Now, I luckily got a bit of discount on those two and did sell them on for not much profit. But yeah, when they sort of re-released it, these things happen at Lego. It's going to happen every now and again, and I got burnt really with that one. And I just don't feel as though this new Disney Castle is that much better than the last one. However, it is Disney. It is a castle. I think long term this could do very, very well. If Lego aren't going to ever do a big Disney Castle again in 3, 4, 5 years time, that could go for a lot of money. I think you're taking a bit of a risk on this, but I think there's definitely scope for it improving in value. But whether or not I'm going to get one of those again, if I can get one at a discounted rate before it retires, I might do. But again, with all of these sets, they are expensive to start with. There's a lot of risk in buying a big expensive set. Of course, if that then gets damaged or something happens to it, it's a big set for something to happen to that. And again, it's just the size. You know, you've got to think about these sets. If you are going to keep it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, where are you going to keep it? Is it safe? Is the box going to get damaged? You know, it's a lot of storage space that it takes up just to be sort of sat in an attic or a storage place somewhere, sort of gathering dust. So you've got to think about all these things. With all of these sets, I don't think any of them, I can't see any of them really, but I might be wrong, but I can't see any of them having a sort of a real good sort of jump of a price increase once they retire. I've been wrong about sets in the past, but I don't know. You know, which one do you think will probably bump up in price quickest? It could be any of them really. It's not really. It can be difficult to tell which of these sets are going to be popular in the future. And that's another thing with Lego investing, is which one, if you are going to buy a big set, which one are you going to get? So they are my general thoughts on the retiring sets for 2025. But what I also did is I had a look back at 2024 and 2023 to have a look at the other big sets and see how they are selling. Now, one thing I did find is I could find some statistics. I was using eBay quite a lot. I wanted to use that as sort of an average. I know people sell on Amazon, people like me sell at shows, things like that, but I wanted something I could gauge and actually look at. And eBay sold prices is one of the easiest ways I find to see how well a set is doing. So let's have a look at these old sets then and see what they're doing these days. So we have 75290. That was the Star Wars Mos Eisley Cantina. That was originally £344.99, or $399.99 in US dollars and euros, 3,187 pieces. Now, those sets are generally going for between £300 and £320. I know I've sold some at Lego shows for £320. That is lower than the recommended retail price. However, I was picking a lot of these sets up for about 260, 270. So they certainly have increased. I think Mos Eisley Cantina, that's going to probably be about that bit like the old style Death Star, where prices didn't really go up very, very quickly, and suddenly, maybe 2 or 3 years after, they really started to shoot up. So I think that's going to be a long haul one. I think they're going to do better long term, certainly. But yeah, as you can see, if you bought that at recommended retail price, it's going to be a while before you're making even your money back on that set. So just bear that in mind when you're buying these sets. You might be hanging on to them for a while. Another big set, 75313. The Star Wars AT-AT, that was $734.99 or $849 in US dollars and euros, 6,782 pieces. That is a big, big set. They are now going for anywhere between, and there was a really big range on these on eBay, anywhere between £750 and £1,000. I mean, there really was a huge range. I think the average was sort of 850-ish, but again, some people have sold much more, some people have sold much less. Don't know why there's such a range. I suppose people are just maybe bartering, or maybe people just need to sell them to make the money back quick. So they have increased in value, certainly, but again, that is a very, very big set. And you know, if you are going to sell it on eBay, you've got to post it out, and that's going to cost a lot in post and packing. Now, I know normally that the person that buys it has to pay the post and packing charges, but you know, that's going to add on to the cost of the set, which might then also cause you a problem. You know, if somebody is only willing to pay £900 for a set, and £40 of that is post and packing, and then there's possibly fees and things to take into account as well, you're probably not going to get that much back on that. So you've got to factor all that kind of thing in as well. These sets really are very big and very heavy and cost a lot to send out. So, but that looks as though that has done okay. I had never got any of those. I just thought they were just too expensive. Great looking set, don't get me wrong, but just very, very big, too big for me. One set that hasn't surprised me, that hasn't done very well, 76210, the Marvel Hulk Buster. That was that really Hulk Buster, the set that nobody asked for. That was £474.99, £549.99 in US dollars and euros, 4,049 pieces. They are going for anywhere between £450 and £500, basically recommended retail price, and that's after almost a year. I can't see them going up any more than that. I don't think many people bought in to invest in these sets. They're not a set that was particularly well received at the time. Lego basically took them off shelves and just thought, we made a mistake on this one. It's not done very, very well, and they got rid of it quite quickly. So yeah, just not done very well. Again, big set to hang on to, and it's not really done an awful lot since it's retired. One set that has done okay is 76405. It's the Harry Potter Hogwarts Express Collector's Edition. That was £429.99 in UK pounds. It was £499.99 US dollars and euros. 5,129 pieces. Now, again, quite a range of different prices on this particular one. The average seemed to be anywhere between about 500 and probably more like 550. So that has increased by a reasonable-ish amount since it's retired. I think some people have managed to get more than that. That has surprised me. I didn't think that would do that well, but it is a great looking set. It's just very, very big. Again, now obviously being a train, that will sort of fit on a long and thin like a mantelpiece or a fireplace, maybe something like that. So possibly a lot easier to display than some of these other really, really big vehicles. But that one has done okay, but again, I never got any of those. Again, just too big and too expensive of much of an outlay really to want to buy many of those. One that hasn't done very well, 10303, and that was the Icons Loop Coaster. That was $344.99 in UK pounds, $399.99 in US dollars and euros, 3,756 pieces. They are going for anywhere between £325 and £375, so basically recommended retail price. A bit like the other roller coaster, really, the red one. I don't think that loop coaster is going to do particularly well. Again, not many people seem to like it. I like the look of it. When it first came out, I thought, oh, brilliant, loop coaster. People have been shouting for a loop coaster forever. But I don't know, it just didn't quite hit the marks, I think. It wasn't that quite as successful, I think, as maybe Lego had hoped, and yeah, not really done that well, that set. Another set, we talked about this theme already, 71741, the Ninjago City Gardens. That was $299.99 in UK pounds, $349.99 in US dollars, 5,685 pieces. You do get a decent piece count with these Ninjago sets. However, they are only selling now for about £260, £270. I think that is one that you could get discounted. So I think probably if you bought into that, you bought it for a lot less than that. But yeah, that's quite disappointing. And that's one of the reasons why I'm put off. As nice as that Ninjago City Markets is that's retiring this year, the City Garden set just hasn't really done anything since it's retired. And again, that's a big set. And again, Ninjago isn't something I would normally buy into. I'm tempted by the larger sets because they are quite nice. But yeah, that does put me off buying the current City Markets, because that set from last year just hasn't done that well at all. The big winner from last year, though, is set 76252, and it's the Batman, the Batcave Shadow Box. That was $344.99, $399.99 in US dollars and euros, 3,981 pieces. Now, that is now selling already, after less than, 9 months since it retired, for between £600 and £620 on average. That is only going in one direction at the moment, and that's going up. So if you've got one of those, well done for getting one of those. I didn't get one of those. I was tempted, but again, put off by the Batman theme, maybe thinking, oh, that's not going to do so well. I did like it, and it was an unusual set, the way that it sort of all opened up, and it just looked great with the sort of the Batman logo sort of built in the bricks as well. It was a very, very good set, but I was too cautious on that one and didn't buy any of those. Kind of wish I had, but again, it's a lot of money to be hanging on to. And I think even at that price, even, yes, they are selling on eBay for £600 to £620, that is a very, very good quick profit really on that set. Even a set like that can be very, very difficult to shift at shows and things like that I go to. Yes, you'll probably shift it on eBay, but even then, you know, you're thinking of someone who's going to spend £600 on a set. You know, big sets like this cost a lot of money, and you're gonna limit the amount of people that can buy these sets to, say, maybe a set that's £50, where most people can buy a set for £50, because if they're willing to pay that, they'll pay £50. A lot of people don't have £600 kicking around spare that they're going to fork out on a Lego set, which they missed out on 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whatever. So yeah, you've got to bear that in mind as well, is how difficult it is going to be to sell this set long term. So yeah, even in a set like that, like the Batcave, could take you maybe a while to sell. That's 2024. Going back even further to 2023, there were 5 sets that I found which I considered big sets. The first one was 42131. It was the Technic app-controlled CAT D11 bulldozer. That was $429.99 in pounds, $499.99 in US dollars and euros, 3,854 pieces. That is now going, that's after 2 years, don't forget, for anywhere between £470 and £520. So again, Technic set, yes, it has increased in value. £50 to £100 increase in 2 years. That's not great, is it, really, for such a big set? Percentage wise, it's not brilliant. So again, this is another reason why probably I'm put off buying Technic sets at the moment. One set that has done quite well and better than I thought it would is 10276. Sorry, it's the Icons Colosseum. And that was £474.99, $549.99 in US dollars and euros, 9,023 pieces. That was at one stage the biggest Lego set ever. However, it did get beaten by another set soon after that. But yeah, again, absolutely huge box that this came in. Very, very boring and repetitive build, I think there was a lot of people said about this. And again, I didn't buy any of these. I was put off by the size, the price, and the fact that people didn't really have great things to say about it. However, people obviously want it now because it's selling for anywhere between £750 and £850. So you've not quite doubled your money, but you're not far off if you manage to get one of those and can sell it for £850. yeah, didn't really see that one coming, if I'm honest. Again, this is the risk you take on these big sets. You can get a big set that looks amazing, like a lot of these Technic sets do, but for whatever reason, they just don't really then lend themselves to sort of turning into good profit makers, really. So yeah, that Icons Colosseum has done very, very well, a lot better than I thought it would. One that hasn't really done well at all, and I thought it would do okay, was 10255, and it's the Assembly Square, the modular building. That was £259.99 in pounds, £299.99 in US dollars, 4,002 pieces. If you sell that now, you're going to be getting anywhere between £220 and £230. Now, unfortunately, that is a set that I did decide to invest in because I like modular buildings. How wrong can you be? I think the problem with this set, it had been out for years. It had been out since 2017, and prior to that, it had a couple of price hikes as well. I'm sure when it first came out, it was it £200 or just over £200? So it did suffer with a couple of price hikes, unfortunately, and that set I think everyone's already got. So that has not increased at all. I think I've got a couple of them in storage somewhere, and I'm going to be hanging on to them for quite a while, I think, until I sell them on, because they're just not made any profit at all. So yeah, and this is another reason why I get put off buying big sets, because I've been burnt in the past with sets like this, which I think are nice, great sets, amazing sets, but they just don't do, for whatever reason, they don't do that well once they're retired, and then you're sort of stuck with a really, really big set to hang on to. So yeah, the original price of that was lower than my £300 threshold, but because it was just over 4,000 pieces, I decided to put that one on the list. One set that's done okay actually is 102.99, the Icons Real Madrid Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. That's a mouthful. 344.99 in pounds, 399.99 US dollars, 5,876 pieces. They are selling for anywhere between £430 and £440. Not the greatest profit after nearly 2 years, just over maybe £100. I'm sure you could get those sets discounted though. I can't remember where, but I'm sure they were. Now this set is probably likely to be more popular and sell for more money in Europe, and especially Spain and possibly the UK as well, where football is very, very popular, or soccer as you call it in North America. I think you're going to struggle. I don't know what the prices are going like in North America, Canada, USA, maybe Australia, maybe not so popular. So something like that. It's just maybe there's not much of a connection to a Real Madrid stadium outside of Europe, really. But yeah, they are at least increasing in profit a little bit. I think not many people bought those sets, so I think maybe that's why they are starting to increase in value a little bit. But yeah, they weren't a set that I was particularly interested in, and I didn't get any of those at the time. And there's one final set to talk about from 2023 that retired, 31203, and it's the Art World map. That was originally £214.99, £249.99 in US dollars and euros. Now that's obviously well below my threshold of £300. However, the piece count on that was crazy. It was 11,695 pieces, 11695. Loads of pieces. I mean, it was by far the most amount of pieces in any Lego set ever, but it was always really disappointing because all the pieces were just little dots basically, so they were tiny. That set now goes for, and again there was a big price range on this one, but it goes for anywhere between £380 and £440. So again, if you got that at less than recommended retail price, say £200 or less, you've more than doubled your money in less than 2 years. That went pretty high straight away. I think it's probably levelled off a little bit now, but that is a set I didn't see coming at all. I didn't buy any of those. I thought it was overpriced to start with. I didn't think anyone would be interested. I didn't think the map itself was the best. It was all sort of weird colours and things, and I just really didn't go for it or like it. How wrong can you be? So, and I've been doing this Lego thing for quite a while, and I still don't pick all the winners. I wish I could. I wish I could have a crystal ball and pick all the sets that they're going to do fantastically well, and avoid all those sets which aren't going to sell on. So that is just a quick roundup. I could probably go back further into 2022 and 2021 and look at other sets as well. But I think the general consensus is with these big sets is that there are one or two that do very, very well, but generally speaking, in my opinion, I don't think many of these sets do that well after retirement, and if they do, you're looking at a really long hold on these sets, and that's something that you really have to bear in mind. These sets, as I've said before, they're very, very big, they're bulky, they're heavy, they're expensive to start with. It's a lot of outlay. Even if you spend £500 on a Lego set, that £500 is sat there doing nothing until you sell that set. And if you're waiting 5, 6, 7 years to sell that set, yeah, you might make a few £100s, but maybe that set is, you know, better off somewhere else. Even in a building society account that's giving you decent interest, or maybe something, you know, maybe if you dabble in shares perhaps, or, you know, buy smaller Lego sets. You know, you could, if you spent £500, if you bought 10 £50 sets, you know, are they going to increase to maybe £70 or £80 in 2 or 3 years' time? And if you sold all of them at £80, that's like selling a £500 set for £800. So you've got to bear all that in mind as well. Is it worth buying these big sets? And I know people do, but I think, and especially if you are a small-time Lego investor, so if you are somebody that's just going to buy the odd set here and there, not go crazy like I do and buy like loads and loads of sets every other week, you know, even I'm put off buying the big sets as well. So if you're only going to do it small time, stick to the lower sets, I think. Stick to your £50 to £100 sets. Maybe occasionally go for a £150 to £200 set. But I would certainly, unless you really, really like a set, I would probably avoid buying big sets wherever possible, because I think, looking at statistics, yeah, there's been some really good winners, like the World Map, like the Batman Shadow box, but apart from that, there's not a lot really that's done very, very well in that last couple of years. So yeah, it's going to take you a while to bring your money back, and that money's just, as I say, going to be sat around until you actually get to selling that set on. That's not to say that these Lego sets aren't great. I think some of them are fantastic, but as an investment thing, I'm not so sure that buying big Lego sets is probably the way forward. I think there are better sets out there at lower prices that potentially could do better, and obviously because they're lower in prices and smaller to store, they are a lot less risky as well. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments about my views on larger Lego sets. Have you bought any of the large Lego sets that are due to retire at the end of 2025? And if so, which ones have you bought? Are there any sets that you wish you'd bought? Probably the Shadow box, like everybody, the Batman, or the World Map perhaps. Let me know in the comments as to what your thoughts are on that. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very, very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.